Hello. Hope everybody's doing great. Let us talk about what it's like to try to get a job. I'm going to kind of go through the history of myself and my job journey. And then I'm also going to kind of talk about um, my recent job journey. And then I'm going to talk about what I think are, reasonable approaches to everyone else's job journeys. And this is specifically if you're trying to work as an artist within the entertainment industry, from film, video games, TV shows, commercials, music videos, you name it. Um, and then that will be kind of what we talk about. I wanted to look at my phone. I had some ideas of stuff that I wanted to kind of practice. So let me find some cool reference images to. You might hear like a bling, bling, bling. That's just me on Pinterest. Dude, Pinterest is like filled with just like tons and tons and tons and tons of AI art. And it was crazy. Oh man, even as I'm looking through this now, there's definitely some AI art here. But it was like nothing but. And it's kind of annoying, because I was just trying to look for cool stuff that's real, like realistic stuff. I wasn't even trying to look for things that are like artistic. Like I was just trying to look for like medieval armor, and it was just like AI slop of medieval armor. Anyway, I think I found some cool stuff. Oh, I like this. I like how this is perceived. Oh, what? Doesn't do anything but portrait mode? Weird. All right, well, I'm gonna have to uncharge my phone there. All right, sorry for the side quest rant. But anywho, um, so when I first started, I was in school. Actually, let me back up even further. I've had your conventional, you know, day jobs from like working at, um, places like the Gap, Tower Records when that used to exist. For those of you who are like, what the heck's Tower Records? There used to be a place in which people would buy their music on little CDs and tapes. It was pretty wacky times. Um, and I used to work at places like that and help people buy music and stuff. Um, it was great. It was a good experience. Learned a lot, just generally speaking, and interacting with people. But anyway, yeah, I've worked like all sorts of kinds of jobs like this, and I had a great time. But they don't pay nearly as well, and you can only go so far. And one thing that I started to kind of really appreciate about working in these types of jobs, just like how much it just felt like it drained my soul. Like I really didn't like a lot of the jobs I had. I think the Gap I actually liked a lot. I worked at the Gap, and that was really fun actually. There's something nice about folding clothes and just talking to people from all over the place. I enjoyed very much. But anyway, which is probably why I like teaching, because it's very similar vibes, right? Like just sit and talk and chat it up. Um, Anywho, so when I was on the bend of like trying to actually have a career, I went to school, and through art school I had a couple other jobs, but um, I got my first real gig pretty much right after I dropped out of school, because I left school because it was just not worth it, and it didn't make any sense um, from the school I went to, and the future or time revealed that it was very much the right call, because the school ended up ultimately being considered a scam. It was really not a real school. It was kind of a joke, which is unfortunate, but it is the truth. And as a result of me kind of like dropping out, I was able to get some work. Some of my friends were already kind of working, and I was able to find some opportunities with them, um, which was like my first full time job, which was really nice. I still kind of talk with the first person who ever gave me that job, actually. I still talk to them every once in a while. Um, I have my feelings about the way those studios were ran in the past, but it's neither here or there. Long story short, though, before I got like that full time gig, I was just going to events and workshops and getting portfolio reviews consistently and constantly. And I think a lot of times people are taking my classes or talking to me online and asking me like, how do you do this? How do you do that? And I always say you only really have control over two things, which is the quality of work and letting people know you have quality work. And going to events and talking to people like in person is like the strategy that I only really had available to me. And that strategy still, as far as I am concerned, is true to this day. It's just basic sales, right? Like selling yourself and the value you bring. And I'm not sure why people have kind of lost this sentiment. I'm not sure if schools are not kind of educating this, or it doesn't seem as obvious. But yeah, there's plenty of events, there's plenty of socials, there's plenty of mixers. There's like, indirect stuff like going to like something like Comic-Con. There are a lot of great artists that go. And there's more obvious stuff like going to something like GDC, where literally the game industry is there. And it's literally a trade show to either find employment or find funding or look for companies. If you're the funder or the employer, look for people to hire. And it's incredibly social, and it's incredibly open for that kind of engagement. And it's kind of like, obvious. Like, yeah, you can go and talk to people. It's not a problem. Go ahead and talk to folks. And so whenever I talk to students about this, and anyone really, and they're just like, I don't know what to do. It's like, well, what have you been doing? And if they're saying to me, I'm just sending out applications, then it's kind of like not the best strategy. And going back to kind of my history of employment, like when I got that first job, real full-time job, it was great. But ultimately, the doors had to close, and the company basically had to shut down, and we got laid off. And I remember I built a massive portfolio literally days after, and I just started spending a lot of time trying to work my butt off to try to get a job. And sure enough, that's when I got Sony Santa Monica gig within about a month's time. But all I was doing was posting online and just reaching out to people aggressively. And what ends up happening when you post a lot of work online is that people see it. And when people see it, you give yourself chances for the types of people who would hire you to want to hire you, because they see your work, they realize you're relevant in some meaningful way, and it just happens to be the right time type of situation, right? Like, you demonstrated that you are on their radar and are worth reaching out to. And the amount of stories I hear of like students and peers and classmates of like how they put their artwork out there and all of a sudden, they become employed, is pretty high. I wouldn't say like every single individual, but definitely more than you would realize. And so when I was starting out and I did all that stuff, it really cemented me. And even though I got that job at Sony Santa Monica and I felt pretty, valued, and I was doing some cool stuff for the companies that I was working at, and I felt very, very much like a professional now, and I was able to do kind of what I was looking to do. It was still not lost on me that I could be put in this position at any given moment. And so I really drove myself to work really hard to maintain that kind of portfolio. And I ultimately did. I started to build a name for myself. I started to become more and more known, even to the point of my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel's growth is a product of kind of my early investment in myself and showing. Like the reason I have upwards of 50,000 subscribers as of now is not mainly because of what I've done recently, but what I've done in the past. And what I'm hoping to do recently, and I'll get to that in just a second to get more elaborate, is to just start doing what I've done before. And so then when I started to post online, I started to be more relevant online. And sure enough, people were like, hey, you want to do this? Hey, you want to work on this? Hey, you want to try this out? The amount of work that I've gotten through just DMs, like on Instagram, uh, is absolutely more than zero. It's probably several opportunities just from Instagram alone. So if you're only looking at like LinkedIn or any other kind of portfolio application type platform, I'm trying to give you some heads up here that it's not the best approach. In fact, I think it's probably the least most effective. And I did a bit of an experiment a few years ago. And honestly, I'll give you kind of an update even now. So a few years ago, all I did was two things. I posted tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of artwork on my ArtStation. I was posting like once or twice a day, you know? And then I was also applying to a job every single day, like jobs that I felt I was qualified for, And I was applying for tons of jobs and I was putting my artwork a lot. And out of the two strategies, one strategy, I got like 3 to 4 opportunities within a month's time. And the other one, I got nothing. I got 0 opportunities. And the one that I got 0 opportunities, as you probably can expect from the tone of this video, is the job applications. I got almost none. And this is me as a seasoned veteran, an incredibly well-known artist amongst the business. And to be frank, like a lot of these jobs that I applied for, I remember 2 of them. I was like, dude, if I don't get this, then this is like clearly not a good strategy. It's a strategy, but not the best. And sure enough, folks, they turned me down. And it was like a job in which, like, this is not exactly the style, but let's pretend for a second that what you're seeing in front of you, like this kind of knight armor dude, like a little bit of a stylistic aesthetic to him. Yeah, let's just imagine for a second that it was like this. It was like a style of this nature. You know what I mean? And I got pretty much a no. Right? And you might be thinking, well, like literally you're demonstrating you could draw cool night duty. Night duty. Night dude. Like you're just doing it right now. You're drawing this cool night dude. And I would agree. And it was looking for a senior position. I'm pretty senior. And it was like that type of aesthetic, like I'm really well known for. And yet, crickets. In fact, I talked to some people at one time at Lightbox. And one of them worked at the company, and I was telling them this, and they're like, what? Like, that's crazy. I don't get it, Because they were just like, dude, that would have been incredible if we would have brought you on board, So they were just like flabbergasted. They were also equally, like, unsure of what was going on behind closed doors, Maybe there's a personal vendetta. Who knows? But I was like, wow, this is crazy that this is not nearly as effective as I was aiming it ought to be. I thought at least I'd get one, maybe like at least one, perhaps 2 optimistically. I didn't expect every single one. I think that's totally reasonable that I get turned down more often than not. But it was just wild to me that I got turned down entirely or didn't hear back at all. And so this is one of those things where I'm like telling you, even I had a hard time. So if I'm having a hard time, shoot, Oh, sorry guys, I'm getting a call. Answer that later. So this idea of like, hey AJ, like I've applied for all these jobs, I'm here from nobody. I'm like, well, I mean, I think it's just hard. But when I go to events or I reach out to people that I know, or I talk to, like, I got like a gig with Laura Khanna, literally just talking with my friend. Like, he's like, oh yeah, we're hiring some folks. And actually now that I said that out loud, I just realized I could probably reach out to him if there's any opportunities for more illustrative work. I think he might be able to help me out. Potentially, maybe not. But I remember yeah, just going and running into them, and they're like, yeah, like let's hook you up, and he did, and I did some cool concepts. Um, the card came out, and it's cool. Everything's good. The opportunities that I've gotten just recently are all from word of mouth, like people that know me sharing my info with others, and for that working out. Like it's so consistent that putting yourself out there, showing that you exist in some capacity, keeps giving you better and better chances. And even right now, as I'm doing YouTube videos, there are more and more people reaching out to me. Um, you know, and the most immediate effect is specifically that I'm like an educator online. I talk and I teach, and people listen to me and are like, dang, I'm learning something, which is awesome. A lot of your guys' comments, especially in the last video, has been really awesome. And I've been getting direct messages from people just telling me how they really enjoy these videos, which is really motivating for me. Um, but anyway, yeah, like folks are now reaching out to me about collabs for videos, and the most direct thing on my educational platform, my Gumroads, are just selling more. It was also pretty dormant, uh, just like my YouTube channel was not really very active. And then now that I'm like being more active, and you see the little banner on the bottom here, right? Robotpencil.net, go visit it. This video is sponsored by me. go, go buy the tutorial too. Um, that yeah, like literally as we spoke, when I checked my phone to decline the call, I saw that somebody just purchased some more tutorials. You know, it's like because I'm demonstrating that I exist. People believe that I have some quality knowledge to share, so they engage. And for many of you, like I think you guys are asking lots of questions on how to get a job, but I don't think you understand that even if I tell you, like, hey, you should apply, you should do this, you should go to events, you should build a great portfolio, like all of these things, what is not being said as explicitly as it ought to be, and especially on these platforms, because a lot of these videos will be very clickbait, like how to get a job, and it's just like this 5 2 steps things, and it feels like very matter of fact. Follow this trend, and then you will just get a job. Like I am absolutely saying, I have no clue when, where, and how it'll happen. I just know that you only have control over 2 things, which is the quality of your work and letting people know you have quality work. If you do those 2 things, I feel it's inevitable. I just don't know when, and I just don't know how. There's a lot of reasons why you won't get that opportunity immediately. But again, I feel like a lot of people are expecting that if they watch a video like this and then they do what has been said, that it's a sure thing. And the only sure thing that I can explain to you guys for the last couple decades I've been doing this almost, I've only done those 2 pieces of advice that I give out, and it has been consistently effective. Okay, truly, it has been effective for me in my entire career. And so, as of now, right, as of now, I am in a position where I have a few contract gigs. I'm starting to get more of my time back because some of the gigs are wrapping up. That took a lot of my time. And other gigs are just kind of like on call. So I'm like waiting for more feedback. So I'm just, once that's addressed, then I get back onto it. But I'm like, okay, well, shoot, I can just take this extra time to do more YouTube stuff, build my content that way, potentially bring more opportunities in this direction via educational platform. And on top of that, what I realized is that, yeah, I'll just start to go to events again and put my services out there yet again. And one thing I can do as a consequence of me making these videos is I make a piece of artwork. Once the artwork is good and I think it's reasonable to share, I'll just share it. And if somebody's out there that sees it, they might be like, yeah, we also think this artwork's cool. Are you down to do some medieval knight looking concept art? You know what I mean? And I'll be like, yeah, sure. I I have been steadily employed for the better part of my entire career. I think I have had a few studios shut down on me. A few companies have major layoffs that I've been a part of for the last 4 or 5 years. So whenever people say, "Hey, the industry's in shambles," and like in my last video, I talked about this. I'm like, yeah, I agree. But one thing that hasn't changed for me is that I just try to stay on top of what it means to build a portfolio, what it means to stay relevant, because many of you guys are right. Like the industry is in a state of it feels like a hiring free fall, and there's nothing, I wouldn't disagree about. But I am very optimistic. I try to. I stay optimistic as best I can. You know. And at the end of the day, if I had to take another job because it truly is dire, I would probably still be building my portfolio. I would still be putting my name out there. I would still be creating other avenues to basically build some level of income. Um, because, I got to stay on top of it and stay optimistic. So this is why I think it's important to recognize that I do believe a couple things will be shifting in the few years, that the industry will kind of be back on its feet, but it may have a different form. I was just talking with a student and how they're building their own little game studio, and it's actually kind of overwhelming, but also exciting that they're doing it. And they were like, I didn't really think this was something that could happen, but it's happening. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, it happens more often than you think, and I think it's going to be the standard, to be honest, moving forward. And they're planning for GDC next year to come and show their portfolio of game and see if they can get some well-needed funding. And I don't think that that's impossible. I think within the next year, that will become more likely because, again, you can only make no money for so long, And you can't rely on just one or two big IPs to be the only way that these studios make income. Got to diversify that portfolio. And so, like currently, I'm doing a few contract jobs, but I'm like, all right, well, let me see if I can line up a few more. And it was like one of those situations too, folks, where when it rains, it pours. Like early last year and especially late last year, I was just working a ton. That's why I haven't posted a lot. That's why I haven't shared as much content. And to be honest, like I just wasn't online because I was just working so much. And every once in a while, I'd do something, and I would delay a lot of my classes a lot because I was just overwhelmed with work or some sort of crunch, and it was just tough. It was tough on me. But now it's starting to kind of wrap up a bit. I'm feeling a lot more in control of my destiny, which has been awesome. And as a result, I feel, I can do more, and I want to do YouTube again. One of my students recommended to me to look into something like a potential strategy within like creating memberships using YouTube. And I thought that was a pretty fascinating idea. I've never even thought about that. And one of the things that I'll say to that is, building a YouTube channel is my primary goal for the immediate future, just because I haven't really tried. And I've been seeing a lot of what's been going on with the industry, and it's just really been making me feel like there needs to be more voices like mine. I think there's totally a reasonable amount of skepticism, and I don't think that should go anywhere. I think you should have a good balance, like honestly. But there needs to be more people that are like just saying, "Nah, it's chill. Like we're chilling," Good balance, and let people let audiences kind of parse the difference, see what resonates for them and what doesn't, and so early last year, late last year, I was just really working a lot. In fact, I was working so much that I was pretty much kicked off on a couple projects. I just wasn't hitting the deadlines as fast as I was hoping, which is on me, not on them. And it was unfortunate, but it was a consequence of just having too much work. But if I would have done fine, like I would have had more work for even early this month. I would have started last month, and it would have been a 2-month gig. But because I was, again, overworked, I just didn't do it. And now I'm in a good spot. I have a lot of the like money saved up, debt kind of paid off, so I'm feeling good. But yeah, it's like, okay, well, I mean, now it's like when it rains, it pours in the opposite direction. When it doesn't rain, it doesn't pour, right? And so I'm like, okay, so I need to kind of just put my stuff out there again, get myself more opportunities to be seen, and then who knows what will happen. I already, like I said, have a couple opportunities that might line up perfectly, but I don't ever assume I got them. I'm always out here, dude. you know. And my long-term goal ultimately is by the time I'm like close to my 50s, um, hopefully early 50s, that I just won't be working as much, if at all. Like, if anything, maybe it will just be my YouTube tutorials and my own game projects that all I'll be doing and worried about. That sounds like the dream. And I'm really aiming to try to get something like that going. Because honestly, you know, I only want to be able to do things like hang out with my family, hang out with my kids, watch them grow up, and be more and more involved in meaningful ways, and then also just make content that helps others. And whatever gets me there, I'm very excited about to be able to like create my own content, make my own projects, and have a lot of time with my family. But it just takes a while. It just takes a lot of time, and I'm patient, you know. And I think a lot of folks out there are rightfully feeling the pain. And I'm still telling you, like, regardless, I have stayed on this simple path of just essentially working consistently, sharing my work regularly, and yeah, never losing sight of that. And I think a lot of people tend to uh, expect that the industry is a lot far worse than it really is. And they also expect that there's no hope for them, that there's only a small group of people that are really just getting all these opportunities. And the truth is just so far from that. When I was working as an art director on this project and I was trying to hire illustrators, I'm telling you, man, like it was hard to find a good group of illustrators that were capable and competent. And we did hire a bunch of like more junior and associate level people. But again, it was just a kind of a shock how little these people understood what it meant to do the kind of work that we were asking for, And a lot of folks are like, how do I get a job if I have no experience? And then how do I get experience if I don't have a job? Like that great conundrum. And I always tell them, you just got to demonstrate you can make good work consistently. That's enough for a lot of recruiters, especially competent art directors, can recognize whether a person could do that well or not. And then once you're given that opportunity, follow through. Make sure to follow through on that promise. Otherwise, yeah, don't be shocked that you are not approached as often, and if you are, that you might not be prepared for it. Anyway, with all that being said, I feel really good about kind of a lot of artists' abilities these days. I think a lot of people are a lot more skilled than they give themselves credit for. I think, again, people are just so hard on themselves, and it's unfortunate. I don't think you need to be that aggressive with yourself. And one of the things that I think really helps alleviate some of these challenges and these critiques that people have about the industry is that the industry is always ever changing. But the consistent thing that I always see is that they're always looking for highly skilled individuals. This is just always the case. Highly skilled individuals are always sought after. And I've seen it like from every vector. I've seen people coming straight out of college get these opportunities. I've seen people who've been working for decades and centuries get a lot of different opportunities. I've seen all shapes and sizes of how to get opportunities in this business. And it's not over, man. And listen, if I really believe that the industry is truly gone for, and that there is nothing out there for anybody, and you should just give up and pick a different field, I won't lie. I will tell you guys. I would have no reason to lie, like I don't make the bulk of my money from quote unquote educational platforms, right? Like I don't make the vast majority of my money from like YouTube, my tutorials, and my mentorships. And even if I did, and for those of you who are my uh, old alumni, my previous mentees, they will tell you like I always shoot from the hip. You know, the reason why I don't think my YouTube and my social presence is blows up or does extraordinarily well compared to some of my contemporaries is I don't do a couple things. One, I don't say things that I don't believe are true. You know, there's a good chance that I can always be wrong about certain things, and I'm almost always happy to adapt to what I'm wrong about. But I don't tell people what I don't think is actually happening to the best of my ability. And the next thing is that I also try to find pragmatic solutions to allow people to achieve their goals and their ambitions. So even if the industry was in shambles and I had to change my advice, I would just change my advice. And I don't know what that advice would be, but I would change it. And I have. I remember I used to not really care about what type of genre people would work on whenever they would work on my class assignments. But I changed. I remember I used to not really care, but then I'm like, hey, listen, there are certain genres that are going to just do better and certain genres that are just not. I remember contemporary genre, I would always give people a little bit of a harder time. Say, listen, this is just one of those genres that I just don't see a lot of conceptual artwork opportunities. But if you understand this and you respect this, then go for it. You know what I mean? Truly, like, go for it. I'm not out here trying to stop people from doing it either. I'm just trying to give them the news. And what I think I also changed is the idea that people shouldn't have to worry about making. Hold on, I'm looking for some more. Hold on. I can't be of two things, of two minds right now. All right, I think this is what the. This is not at all what I was looking for. Whatever. Um, you know, I typically will tell people in the past like you shouldn't have to worry about 3D, you know? Just make really cool art. But now I'm like, yeah, you should probably learn some 3D. I don't think that it's still the end all be all. I think you can totally build an entire portfolio with no 3D skills whatsoever. I think that that's actually still pretty relevant of advice. The reason why I'm like you should learn some 3D is because 3D has just gotten so much easier to learn, and there's so many tutorials and there's so many incredible tools within the 3D realm that it just doesn't seem like it's like if you're learning how to do a digital tool like Photoshop, like I'm like, yeah, just add 3D like Blender on top of that, you know? Because you can make really cool 3D concepts. I've done it. And I've seen so many people adapt to like ZBrush and 3D Coat and all these other incredible 3D tools that it just seems pretty fascinating to like know that this is more and more accessible than it once was. And I think it's pretty reasonable to allow people to know that, hey, you should try to do this. You should actually try to get good at this stuff because it's kind of cool, you know, and you can probably do more. And it goes back to like making your own stuff when you start to, you know, fuck with like new tools and you're like, hey, I can actually start to make my own, I can start to make my own movies and video games, right? And that's exciting. That's the part that's like you have now access to if you learn a little bit of 3D tools. And like I go on like TikTok and I watch like just like regular folk, you know, that had no experience with animation, 3D, whatever. They're making these little short films and it's just hilarious and some of them are actually pretty awesome. And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, there you go. You know, like that's another avenue of revenue is just to make your own shit. And these people are doing it and are blowing up on all these platforms. There's one person I follow uh, that kind of go back to like doing 2D only. They only do like these like 2D animatics and are probably using some software like CapCut to do the editing. And it seems like unprofessional in the standards of like what we're used to using, like After Effects, Nuke and all these other incredible editing and compositing tools that just think that they're using some sort of like TikTok social media editing app, but they get tens of millions of views easily every month for making these really funny animated shorts. I love them. I crack up every time I watch them. And it's just fascinating to me that that's just true. People can do that now, you know? And I'm just flabbergasted if someone's just like, I don't have time to learn this stuff. It's like, bro, I literally have no time. I have like 1,700 children. I have like full-time gigs, contract work, freelance. I teach, and yet I found time to learn some of these software. I'll spend like a few hours every day, and then it just helps me get more work and helps me do a better job at my work, you know? So it's just fascinating to me to hear people make the claim that they just don't have that time. And listen, you might not. Listen, I will concede you may not have time, but still, I think it's worth learning and worth finding time. Right now, I'm learning an animation tool called Rive for my game project. It's like it's kind of like this. I don't know how else to describe it. I'm not going to describe it. Just it's called Rive, Rive, and yeah, it's a really cool tool, man. And I'm learning how to use it now as we speak. Later tonight, I'm going to invest some time to learn more of like the programming aspect of this tool and see what we can come up with. But really, at the end of the day, I'm always out here learning. During my demo for one of my classes, I was doing a 3D sculpt to kind of learn a little bit of what my buddy Jama was probably doing with his little cool sketches that he does in 3D code. And yeah, it was cool to see like a lot of people in his comments being like, how the F? Because it just demonstrates again that ability to just stay relevant and stay on top of like tools and maneuvers, you know, that someone like my buddy Jama is incredibly good at, and why he's always on the frontier, you know? And he's an old dude. Sorry, Jama, if you're listening to this, you're like, hey man, you're also old. I am old. But he's like in his late 40s or mid 40s, if I think. Still in good shape. I saw him do a handstand on Instagram. I was like, damn, dude, staying fit. Hell yeah. But you get what I'm saying? Like we're old dudes, and I'm still out here learning new tools. So if you're a young, spry individual that has like maybe just a day job and you feel like you have nothing going for you, I mean, come on, man. Like you got it. You got it. I believe in you. And remember, people are always looking for highly skilled individuals, and no better way to demonstrate your high skills by having an incredible portfolio. And with that being said, I plan on building a portfolio building tutorial series that I will most likely sell for a pretty reasonable cost. But the goal there would be to demonstrate how I would build a portfolio and how I would demonstrate it, and just kind of be very tools oriented. And it's going to be a long form video versus just a YouTube video that's just out there. I kind of want to make sure that it has a lot of value for folks, and also I can get some compensation for some really good effort to try to make it work. But I will probably still put out there maybe like portfolio reviews just to demonstrate what I would see and how I would regulate a portfolio that I would want to either hire somebody for or not hire them for. But trust me, man, get your work out there, become incredibly relevant in some meaningful way. And I believe in you guys, truly. I think you guys are very capable of finding these opportunities. You just don't let the internet tear you down and tell you that you're the worst and there's no possible way to do it. Remember, a lot of these social network platforms are just trying to keep you on the platform, no matter whether you like it or not. They can care less if you're enjoying yourself, as long as you're there. And so, yeah, hope these videos are bringing you a glimpse of light and hope and motivation. But don't get it twisted. I am not out here going to tell you that, yeah, you just follow these ABCs and then bam, you will make, or you will have a job. All I can promise is that as long as you stay consistent on building quality work and letting people know that, you have increased odds of this happening, I assure you. Other than that, hope you guys enjoyed this kind of cool night painted armor, dude. Lots of color dodge up in this. Lots of color variation. I'm evolving as an artist, y'all. Anyway, hope you guys enjoy. See you guys in the next video.